Hey, this is John Strickland with Lullwater, and you're listening to BODS Mayhem Hour.
Welcome to BODS Mayhem Hour, your source for all hard rock, heavy metal, new metal, alternative, punk, horror punk, hardcore, rock, and all local bands, with your host, John the Bod, a.k.a. the Bodfather.
Hey everybody, welcome to BODS Mayhem Hour. I'm your host, John the Bod, a.k.a. the Bodfather, and as always, I'm bringing you guys awesome interviews. Today, it is an honor and privilege to have Mr. John Strickland. He is the rhythm guitarist and lead vocalist of Lullwater back on the show, and the last time he was on here was during the Revival album, but anyway, Lullwater, they hail from Athens, Georgia. They have a new album called Voodoo, will be released hopefully this winter. Maybe we'll talk about that a little bit later in the interview. But, however, they have released a cover, a Pearl Jam song off the 1991 hit album 10. This video features live footage with Dave Crewson of Pearl Jam and Candlebox and Kevin Martin of Candlebox, and was recorded at London Bridge Studios in Seattle, Washington, where 10 was originally recorded, with engineering and mixing by Justin Davis. And this is pretty cool. I started reading a lot about this, and it's really eerie, John, about how all this has come together, man. So welcome to the show, and glad to have you back on, man.
Hey, John. Thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, no problem whatsoever. So this has to be a meant-to-be thing for you guys to cover a song from your favorite band, Pearl Jam. And plus, you know, you're recording this at London Bridge Studios in Seattle, Washington, where 10 was originally recorded, you know, with engineering and mixing by Justin Davis. How did Dave Crewson from Pearl Jam and Candlebox and Kevin Martin from Candlebox also come together on this with you to actually, you know, how did you come up with this idea? How did all this happen? Because like I said, this was kind of a little eerie on how this...
Yeah, it is eerie, man. It was something, a little bit of a Wayne's World moment for me as well, just being like, you know, I'm not worthy having recorded release in London Bridge, at London Bridge, in the same studio that 10 was recorded and produced in. And for us, it was, we did the self-titled record, Lullwater self-titled, at London Bridge in 2011. So we'd already kind of, you know, we'd already known those guys and done an entire record in Seattle with them. So we were on tour, and we came through Seattle, and we had a couple days off, and Jonathan Plum was being super gracious and being like, hey guys, you know, just, you get the studio for a couple days, do what you want to do. And Justin Davis was our engineer and still is. So yeah, we just came in and we had been covering release for a while. And we're like, well, we're in Seattle. Let's put it down on tape. So yeah, we came in and knocked it out in a couple days, and then we sat on it for a while. Actually, believe it or not, the Seattle Sessions EP was just kind of an afterthought, and we had some. You know, we did some live recordings of previously recorded songs, and we kind of sat on it for a couple of years. And then a couple of years ago, we toured with Candlebox for about 8 weeks, and I guess collectively for about 8 weeks. And then the first tour, we started playing release because Dave Crewson from Pearl Jam 10 was the drummer for Candlebox, and we were in Houston, Texas, and we played release, and then he was in the green room. And I guess the story goes, he kind of popped up and was like, hey, I know this one, you know, like, I know this song. And of course we're like, yeah, you know, you're on this one. And then some friends of ours in Candlebox were like, hey man, if you ask Crewson to play this live with you, he'll do it. And of course I just fucking, you know, lost it. I'm like, oh my God, this is going to be insane. So we asked him to do it, and then we didn't know, you know, when he was going to do it or whatever. But the next night we were playing, and, you know, I think it was in Colorado, Pueblo, Colorado, this huge theater. It was a memorial center in downtown Pueblo. And you could just, right when he comes up behind Joe, he didn't say anything. We started playing it. And then, you know, obviously the crowd kind of went wild, and then we all looked around and were like, oh, right. You know, I kind of thought it was the song, like they're gonna go wild for the song, but then we look back behind us, and Dave Crewson is playing drums. So that it just blew us away, and he did it for like 8 shows. So for me as a musician, that definitely that's a career high for me and a personal high for me. And I know our drummer Joe was just like, yeah, I got to play drums with Dave Cruzen on Release, you know, and Kevin Martin came out and he sang Release with me on a couple shows. So it was surreal to say the least.
That's awesome, man. Congratulations on that, because that's few and far in between for guys to get to do that with their favorite bands.
Yeah, it's crazy because, I mean, they're legends to me, you know, like growing up in the 90s and being a huge fan of Candlebox and being a huge fan of Pearl Jam. When we got that tour lined up, you know, the first couple days I was a total fanboy for a while. You know, I'm like, oh God, there's Kevin Martin and there's Dave Cruzen, Pearl Jam, and Candlebox. Like it was crazy. But once we kind of settled in, they're super gracious guys, super humble, and really they really helped us out a lot on that tour.
So did you have your Chris Farley moment from Saturday Night Live? So do you know, Kevin, that you played in Candlebox and the song?
Yeah, I definitely had that moment. Like, yeah, you know, yeah, I definitely did, man. I definitely did.
That's awesome.
But it was cool. We got to do the video, and we recorded the song obviously a couple years before that, and then we got all the video footage from the live shows and the tour where we just put it all together, you know, and we wanted to put out our release cover, and you know, our publicist is doing a great job with that.
Here's the thing about that, though, and I want to ask you about it. What was it for you guys to say, okay, let's make Release our single? You know, I know it's a cover, because some bands don't want to put out a cover as a single. They just want to say, okay, we'll save that for the album. But why put this out as a single for you guys off the bat? You
know, it's just one of those things where we just wanted to put this cover out because we do it live, you know, here and there. Mm-hmm. And we just really loved the way that it turned out. We loved the way that the video turned out. And it just, Release to me is my favorite Pearl Jam song. I mean, that's my top 3 for sure. And it's such a powerful song for us to look back at the story of how it was recorded at London Bridge, and then how we were able to play that song with Cruzen. And it's just such a moving song and a monumental song for us as a band because of everything that surrounded it. So I think we just wanted to put a video and kind of put it out.
See, you've got Release as your favorite Pearl Jam song, and my favorite Pearl Jam song is Black.
Nice. Yeah,
I mean, because of all the bullshit that I've been through with trying to go out with chicks. I mean, it's, you know.
Yeah, that's a heavy hitter too, man.
It is. And I mean, if you go back and you listen to read the lyrics to Black, it's like, oh shit, man. It's great. It's a hard-hitting song.
It's so good.
So what's impressed you the most about making the new album so far that you're working on, Voodoo? What's caught your eye about, if anything, man, possibly if you could talk about it?
Yeah. So Voodoo is Lullwater 3. It's our next record. We went to New Orleans for a month and lived in the French Quarter for a month, which is a challenge in itself, especially for this band. You know, you throw a Lullwater rock band into the French Quarter for a month and try to get anything done. It was definitely an uphill climb for sure. But you know, there's something about that city and working with Jacob Herman from Gothenburg, Sweden at Top 4 Studios. He's a total badass. It's, you know, a Swedish Grammy guy who he's worked with Anthrax and Machine Head and just a ton of great Swedish, you know, heavy bands. And he was the main engineer producer. And then of course Justin Davis, who's worked with us since Self-Titled in 2011, is, you know, we call him the fifth Beatle because he's always been there. He did Revival along with Stephen Hogan. He's just always been with us, progressing our sound and getting his hands dirty with you know, who we are as musicians and how to produce us and get the right takes and all these things. So it was kind of crazy going down to New Orleans, and then we recorded it at Maroney Studios, which Rick Nelson Owens from, he's an Afghan Whig who is a total badass, and he's one of the nicest people you ever meet. And he was actually the guy that put strings and he put strings on the record. So that's another thing we could talk about Voodoo, is that you go down there and it's just this new place. It's exciting. It's crazy, but it was a lot of hard work. You know, we always started at 9, 10 in the morning, regardless of how late we were out the night before. We were always putting in 10, 12-hour days. So it was such an experience. And I think with this record, it's so much bigger. It's such a big sounding record We added strings and horns and piano, and we added a lot of these different instruments because I think for this record, it called for it. You know, it's definitely heavier. It's a heavy record, but it's really, it's just a really big sound, and there's a lot of work that went into it.
So working with Jacob on this as a producer, did he just step in when he needed to? Did he push you guys harder on this album, possibly?
I think pushing us is an understatement. I literally, like, there were days, and I loved him to death dearly. He's such a close friend of mine now, and has been. We met him from Emirates, the tour with Emirates we did. But he came in and just wrecked us. I mean, and we appreciate that. And I think the band needed that. I think the band needed to get our asses kicked over and over and over again to kind of, like, you know, drive it home to where he is, you know, he is a master of his craft. And I think for us as a band that's been touring and kind of honing in on our craft, it's a whole other monster when you have a guy going, look, guys, the songs they're good, but let's make them better. You know, let's go in and play better. And there was an instance, you know, I remember that everybody was in kind of the last hour to where in the recording process, you get burnt out and you're just pissed and he's driving you and you're just like, God damn it. Like, this dude is going to kill me. He's going to kill me. But right at that moment, he gets the best take, you know? So there's definitely a method to his madness. And we all respect Jacob and love him dearly, but yeah, he's tough, man. He didn't get to be where he is today without being a total, you know, mad scientist. We call him the crazy Swede because he's absolutely bonkers, but in the best way possible.
Could you see yourself working with him again down the road, or maybe on the next album, possibly?
Absolutely. I think after working with Jacob and Justin as a team, they both gave each other kind of a different sensibility and different talents. And at the end of the record, obviously, it was like, you know, a big family that had just accomplished a lot in a month. And no, those guys are our team. And I think that the next record we do will definitely be with Jacob and Justin for sure.
How long did it take to record this album? Or are you guys still actually finishing it up?
It's actually mixed and mastered. It's ready to go. We're kind of waiting on the team to get everything in order for, you know, the music business side of things. There's a lot that goes into it. So we're trying to get all that together before we release it. But yeah, it took a month for actual tracking. We finished all the tracking, and then we came to Athens for another 10 days and did vocals. And then obviously you have like a 2-week period or a week period of mixing and mastering. So overall it was, you know, it took 50 days or so to get the whole thing from start to finish completely recorded and mixed and mastered, which the ironic part of the record is that we got sick. Everybody got sick throughout the record process. It was almost like, you know, this record's going to be plagued anyway because, you know, Benny got sick down in New Orleans. Ray got sick in New Orleans. I think Joe got really sick in New Orleans. And I also got sick. I got a sinus infection down there, which thank God I didn't have to do vocals. But everybody's sick. We all get it. We knock out the record, and we come back to Athens. And, of course, the East Coast was hit with, is it the bomb cyclone? I can't remember. Was it last winter that, you know, the entire East Coast was just completely frozen. I mean, Athens had like a 10 degree day, a 2 degree day, and all this stuff, to where I got sick again in Athens before vocals, and so did Jacob. So it's like sickness has played this record, but it's definitely the best record we've ever accomplished.
Are there any songs off this new album that's going to come out that stand out to you more than any on it possibly? I mean, I know these are like picking your favorite collectible or whatever, but are there any that stand out for you maybe that you could talk about? They're
different. I mean, the songs are going to be way different than, not completely different than Revival and Self-Titled, obviously, because we're still writing in our style, but they, you know, when you add horns and strings and piano, it's going to make a record pop, and it's going to bring a different element to the sound. It's going to be a little bit more produced, and it's going to be a little bit, you know, of a bigger sound. So, yeah, I think honestly, obviously every band's going to say that, but all the songs on this record are very intricate and powerful. I'll go with that until I can talk about it further.
How much growth have you seen this band go through, and plus yourself, up to the release of this new album, man? How much growth musically have you seen this band go through, possibly, or has it just been more of a personal growth for all you guys involved in this?
I think both. I think personally, I think we've all grown as musicians and people together, where it's more of a brothers in arms kind of thing with Lullwater. We started off and we had some member changes, but myself, Joe, and Ray have been together for 8 and 6 years. Benny came in about a year and a half ago. So I think the record made us tighter and also a smarter group of musicians, because Jacob definitely drove that home. I think working with him, he made us a tighter band. He made us a tighter unit. And he also said, look, John, don't go crazy here, or Joe, don't do this, Keith Moon stuff here. Just hold back and let the space fill in with which part that needs. Like, all right, this is guitar time. Everybody chill, let the guitar do its thing. Or here's vocals. You know what I mean? So it really made us smarter, and I think it made us a better band and better musicians, all together.
So do you guys do anything differently during the writing and recording process to help keep your mind fresh and open, to not let the music get stale and not go down a path that you don't want to go back down? Do you do anything differently, maybe?
This record was different because we had like a month and a half where we'd had ideas here and there and guitar riffs here and there and this and that, but we really just dug in for the writing process of the record. And we said, we have a band house in Athens to where we have, our whole basement set up with recording gear and the equipment and all that stuff. So it's, we collectively wrote the record, and that's what I think is special about Lullwater that keeps it from getting stale, is that it is a collective effort. I might come up with an intro riff and then Ray will finish it out, or then, Joe will change up he'll change up a verse to a chorus, or be like, hey, let's do a bridge here, things like that. And then you have Benny, who's an incredible writer and guitar player that comes in and brings a new kind of style to Lullwater, but with also incredible songs. So it for this record, there was nothing that really kept us from getting stale necessarily, but it kept us motivated and creative for sure, because it was definitely a creative record.
What can fans expect at a show from Lullwater? Have not got to see you guys live as of yet.
It's going to be a lot more energy, and that's saying a lot, because Lullwater has definitely been a high-energy rock band. But I think the new songs that we're putting into the set, it's going to add a lot more aggression, a lot more fast-paced, just balls out kind of intensity rock.
Now, we're living in the digital era of recording albums and plus social media. Do you like this, that we're living in right now, of the digital era, to get albums out quicker, and plus social media to get out to more fans possibly who have not heard your music as of yet?
It's a double-edged sword, but I do think that, social media is a great tool. And I had an interview the other day, and we were talking about this. Honestly, the way I look at Facebook is essentially like fan mail, except it's instant. So if you look at before social media and before Facebook and all those things, like you take the time to write your favorite artist or band a letter, a fan mail, and then that artist would take it and he'd read it and he'd write, he'd respond to it and then send it back in the mail, and then maybe 2 weeks later you get a fan letter or fan mail from Eddie Vedder that comes back and everybody freaks out. But having Facebook and having social media, it's instant. So we always pride ourselves on handling our Facebook and handling our Instagram and Twitter and things like that, to where if a fan reaches out in a message and we see it, we're definitely going to respond back. And we appreciate all the emails and Facebook messages, because it connects you closer to fans. It definitely does. And I think when you're an up and coming band and you're on tour a lot and you're doing your thing, fans, they mean a lot to us, because there's been countless times where fans will come in and bring us, dinner or drinks or all these things where it helps out. So I think getting music out, to answer your question too, I think that being able to get music out in the digital age is a good thing. I still think, because I'm old school with this, is that the recording process is kind of still the same. For us, we go into a studio, we record, and I feel like some people will be like, well, the record's done, let's put it out. Well, there's still the music business that you have to work with. And I don't know if some people understand that in a day of instant gratification of how slow and arduous the process is with actually making a record and how much time it takes and the blood, sweat, and tears that go into it. So, yeah, to answer your question, yeah, I'm a fan of the digital age. I'm a fan of social media, but I also think that it can warp people's perception of artists and bands, and give me something new, give me something out, which it's still the same.
What made you want to become a musician, John? What was that spark for you that said, yeah, that's what I want to do right there?
I'll say I was 12 years old, and I was a late bloomer, like a little short kid. And I didn't, I wasn't good at sports per se. I was extremely mediocre and all that. But growing up in South Georgia and kind of getting into the grunge era and growing up with a great sister who always gave me new music and got me really into music at an early age, I started playing with my buddy Joey Dombrowski and Justin Minshew in, I think, 8th grade, maybe 7th, 8th grade. And Joey was just a whiz. Like, he's just a whiz. I mean, he was playing all the Van Halen songs on guitar at like 7th grade. Like, he was just a phenom, So watching him play guitar was just like, yeah, I want to do this. And then he goes, okay, now let's start playing Sweet Home Alabama first. You got to work your way up. But that's what got me into it. And we started bands, and I was in a band at 12 and 14 and 16 throughout high school and all that stuff. So I think the moment for me is when we got all our little buddies in the band practice space, and we just jammed and having that magical feeling of, you can't think of anything else during the day other than getting home and playing music at an early age. And I think that's when it kind of, that's when it stuck for me.
And especially him saying, okay, we're going to start off easy with Sweet Home Alabama. What the hell? It's not easy. It's like,
for a rhythm guy, it's easy. It's pretty easy for a rhythm guy, but for the lead guy, no way. I was not even touching the Sweet Home Alabama lead at all.
Yeah, I mean, when I bought my guitar and was trying to learn how to play guitar, I was like, man, it looks pretty simple. I'll try it, and shit. I couldn't play it.
Yeah,
with a damn.
Before you know it, it's like, what am I doing?
Yeah, it's like I wasted $400. I was like, what am I doing? Support-wise, man, is there a country or a place that stands out more to you or it shocks you that you guys get support from?
The Midwest has always been great to us. I mean, Texas is huge. Like, for us, we go on the road, and it's a lot of the Midwestern states are always just, they're good rock states. They're good rock towns. We just got back from La Crosse, Wisconsin, and that place is amazing. People care about rock. They come out. They care about live music, and it's awesome. It's awesome to go back to a place that you play and people come out and familiar faces, and you just, you feel the love from fans that have been paying attention to your music since day one, or since this record or that record. But yeah, I would say the Midwest. And honestly, being from Athens, Georgia, we don't really have a big rock scene in Athens, which I hope will change. I love Athens, Georgia, but really the rock scene here is not as big and not really, it's not like a thriving rock scene in Athens. So we had to kind of go outside of our hometown and go outside of our comfort zone to tour and find those places like Texas. I mean, Fort Worth and obviously Houston's a big rock town. So yeah, the Midwest is great for us.
Man, as always, I've been a fan of your guys ever since, you first came on the show. I've been keeping up with you all. Congrats on everything that's happened so far, man. And how could folks stay in touch with you guys, buy some merchandise, tour dates, things like that? How can you do that, John?
So just go to our Facebook, Lullwater Music, and Instagram and all the social media outlets. But as of now, we're working on a website. We're revamping the whole site and setting up our online merch store. So that should be up, but it will be lullwatermusic.com.
And before I let you go, good sir, as always, would you care to do a promo for the show?
Absolutely. Hey, this is John Strickland with Lullwater, and you're listening to BODS Mayhem Hour.
Hey, everybody, stick around. We got some great music coming up, and you only hear these interviews right here on BODS Mayhem Hour and BODS Mayhem Radio Network. Thank you so much, John, for being back on the show, my friend.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, John.